Yes, I am. I'm afraid I can't talk now.
Well, when do you suggest? This evening at the flat?
I shan't be in London.
Oh. Well, there's a lot to talk about. Lisbon, for instance. Ian, I'm sorry I missed the plane, but it was a question of priorities.
I wish I could be assured of my priorities. Perhaps I should try and forget about you after all.
But...
It was your suggestion, if you remember.
Yes, I remember.
You don't leave a man much pride, have you? Miss Rutherford, can I ask you a personal question?
Certainly, Dr. Moody. Anytime you like.
You're not probation officer around here any longer. What brings you here?
My dear Ian, your Guardian Trust has just opened a brand new law centre here. I give you the credit of thinking you want some customers.
That's the last thing we need. We've only been open a week and already we're knee-deep in them.
Well, I have a personal interest in these two. I saved their marriage once. And no two-bit foreign landlord is going to undo my handiwork. Oh, may I ask you a personal question?
Certainly not.
It's my house, my furniture. Where I say go, you go.
You can't do this, Mr. Novas.
It's mine. I pay for my furniture, I pay for my house, I do what I like.
Miss Rutherford, he's changed the locks. Tell him he can't do it.
Have you got a court order?
Who are you?
I'm a probation officer.
So you've been in trouble, eh? Even more reason. Get out!
Neither Mr. or Mrs. Butler have been in trouble.
Who is he, police?
My name is Moody. I'm connected with the local law center.
Then you tell them it's my property, they got to go.
That is not the law.
Some lawyer, you. Everybody knows. When it's your house, you say who lives in it, all right?
All right, Mr. Novas, just let us get our things out of the flat.
Not before we pay arrears.
What arrears?
Arrears of rent.
We're not behind with our rent.
Show me Rembo.
You wouldn't give us one.
Mr. Novas, the law says you cannot evict a tenant without a court order. You must let Mr. and Mrs. Butler stay.
You think you can say this because I'm just some foreigner who doesn't know what is going on, eh? Well, I live in London 8 years. And when landlord say to me, go, I go. Or he throw me out, right? Now I'm landlord. What was good for me is good for them.
No, I want my things. I'm not leaving here until I get my things.
Look. You see, always he make trouble. And I say no babies. Look at her.
Mr. Novas, I'm speaking as a doctor. This will get you into serious trouble.
Yes? Then call police. Burro hijo de perra.
Come on, love, there must be another way. I'm not speaking as your clerk now, Sir John. My son's been jailed for robbery with violence. He's only on bail because he appealed. I want you to represent him.
No, Dad. Miss Peterson defended me at the trial.
Leave this to me, Dave. I know best.
You need the barrister who was there, not someone, however eminent, who picks it up from reading a transcript.
Well, I am the client, Sir John. Is that right?
Yes.
So what I say goes.
Well, that appears to dispose of the matter. I'll be down in the country for a couple of days with him. You know where to reach me.
So what exactly happens?
Tomorrow's hearing is just an application for permission to appeal.
Well, isn't it automatic when the defense has a good point?
Usually, yes. But we have a difficult point of law about new evidence. It's been referred to the full court. That means that 3 High Court judges will listen to the arguments and make the decision.
But you said Dave would get off on appeal.
I said he had a good chance.
Well, if you've got a good chance, you don't have to sweat your guts out just for leave to appeal. Don't tell me you got my boy out on bail on false hopes.
Look, Miss Peterson explained it all to me, Dad, in prison. I know the risks, and I know we may not win.
Yes, Peggy. Well, who is it? Oh, all right, put him through. It's Dr. Moody for you. He says it's urgent.
Yes, Ian?
Harriet, I'm at the law center. There's a couple here being evicted from their flat. We need help desperately. Do you think you could come over?
All right, I leave in 5 minutes.
Miss Peterson, the hearing is tomorrow.
It's a matter of law and argument. No one will be giving evidence tomorrow.
There are tactics to consider.
I have to persuade their lordships to give us leave to appeal. I'll look at the law again tonight. And don't worry too much, David. I'm very confident.
Don't you think that a case like this should take precedence over private matters?
Are you suggesting
I'm not
that
suggesting anything, Miss Peterson. I
Bill,
just want you
I
to...
understand your concern. But please don't speak to me like that. Peggy, would you ask Miss Bradstreet to get her coat and join me in the car? Thank you. Good night. I'll see you all in the morning.
Good night, Miss Peterson.
Good night.
Night, Mr. Jordan. Bloody doctor.
funny. It's not a bit like prison here. So cool. Almost beautiful.
Don't worry too much about what I said to Miss Peterson. It's part of the job. Clark has to keep his governors up to it. All the time.
When I was in the scrubs...
Don't talk like that, Dave.
There was a bloke come in. Big strapping guy he was. No one was going to push him around. Been given the option, 1,000 quid, 3 months. Said he'd rather do 3 months. By the end of the week, he was crying. Actually crying to be let out. They gave me 3 years, Dad. Don't want to go back.
You won't, son. No matter what.
Rachel and Cyril had a little matrimonial trouble. That's how I got to know them.
Well, first, we live with my mum, you see, and she can be a bit awkward.
That's the understatement of the year.
Right, Rachel, don't go on.
Well, I persuaded them to try again. I found them this flat. I knew the previous owner.
And she was okay.
Where will you stay tonight?
Go back to my mum's, I suppose.
Oh, God.
Well, if it's only for one night.
Well, you can, not me, not ever. I'll sit with my sister at my mum's.
I don't give this marriage that much chance if they go back to live with Mrs. Butler.
That's a bit tough, isn't it?
Well, it's true, and they both know it.
And don't bother, I shan't go back there again. Whatever.
That's why this flat is so important.
But it's only furnished accommodation. Well, surely there's plenty of that to be found.
Oh, yeah, if you've got money or you're on your own, you can find a place, sharing with 3 or 4 others. If you're married, one room's nearly impossible to find. If you've got a family or one in the oven.
I do wish you wouldn't say that.
Well, I pounded the pavements for weeks, didn't I, looking for a flat? Well, I work on the underground now, you see. It's shift work, irregular hours, and they don't like that.
Well, if you knew this flat was your only chance, how did you manage to fall out with Mr. Novas?
Well, I don't know when it started, but we had a fight over something. Then I fell pregnant, and that was it. Same old story.
What old story?
Him trying to check us out.
How?
Well, walking in and out at all hours, cutting off the gas, threats.
What threats?
All sorts of things. He'd call the police, say we started a fight. Accuse us of not paying the rent. Tell us to get out, you know.
Laws and things, they don't mean a dicky bird when the landlord's on your doorstep chucking you out.
That's harassment. It's a criminal offence.
Quite right, Bradstreet.
Well, why don't you call the police?
They can't help. They've had strict instructions from the Home Office not to prosecute.
But the police can't be told not to enforce the law.
Well, you try and tell the Home Secretary that.
It's up to the local council.
Well, they won't touch it. Not if there's an allegation of arrears.
Now, the average fine for harassment in 1970 was only £15.
Was it?
It was, actually.
A solicitor charges £30 to £40 for taking an action for possession. Harassment's cheaper.
I don't see what they can do. They're in furnished accommodation. That means the landlord can get them out if he goes to court.
Well, the tenant can go to the rent tribunal, who'll give him 6 months' security of tenure.
It'll take 2 months to get a hearing.
Well, what do we do? Nothing.
What about the baby? I want my home back.
There is a procedure. It's difficult, complicated, long-winded.
What'll it cost her?
For what I have in mind, legal aid is available.
What is it?
We go to the county court.
By the time you get there, she'll have had the baby.
I shall appear before the judge tomorrow morning.
So soon?
What for?
You take proceedings against your landlord for breach of covenant.
Come again?
Every landlord covenants with every tenant to allow him to occupy free from interference.
Well, ours didn't.
In law, he did. It's called the Covenant for Quiet Enjoyment. By harassing you, he broke that covenant, and we shall sue for damages for breach.
I'm sure you know what you're talking about, Miss Peterson, but it sounds like a load of old cobblers to me.
Yes, I expect it does.
How does this get you in front of a judge in the morning?
Well, if something's really urgent, you can go before a judge and interrupt whatever he's doing. We issue the summons claiming damages and an injunction to restrain the landlord from keeping you out of your flat and from further harassment.
What's an injunction?
It's an order of the court.
You must be joking, Nervous. You'd just tear it up, wouldn't it?
Then he'd really be in trouble.
What do we have to do?
The work will be done by my pupil, Miss Bradstreet, in the name of the solicitor. Well, here at the law centre, we don't stand on ceremony, and the solicitor's up to his eyes in other work. You and your husband will give Miss Bradstreet a full account of your case. Dates, times, places. details of your tenancy, rent, accommodation. And then a history of all the things you complain of. I want chapter and verse for each act of harassment, leading up to exact details of what happened tonight when the landlord locked you out of your flat. Miss Bradstreet will then translate those statements into affidavits, which she'll type, and you will each sign and swear. She'll take statements from Dr. Moody here and Miss Rutherford, who witnessed Novus throwing you out. Those will be affidavits, too. Then Miss Bradstreet will go with you tonight to see any other witnesses of acts of harassment by Novus and take statements and affidavits from them. She will then type out the pleadings of your case, the particulars of claim, they're called, and when she's done all that, she can go home to bed for what's left of the night, so that she can be fresh to meet us at 10 o'clock in the morning with all the documents.
This is a covenant for quite, what's its name?
Enjoyment.
That's it. Is it a new law?
One of the oldest. The right of the citizen to call on a judge to stop continuing wrong.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've got it all except the draft injunction.
I'll deal with that.
I'm afraid that Dr. Moody and Miss Rutherford can't be here. They're busy. But they swore their affidavits last night.
You must have been up all hours.
Yes. Quite fun, really. Aren't you supposed to be in the High Court on Dave's appeal?
It's second in the list, but I have someone standing in for me.
Oh, yes. Who?
You.
Me.
Nothing to it, just 3 of the most cussed judges we've got. You stand up and tell them I'm going to be late.
And Doc?
Don't hang about.
No, miss.
Wait here, will you, while I get this lot sworn and the summons issued.
Where the devil is she? Not right. Making appointments to meet detective sergeants and police and not keeping them.
You forget. Policemen are old hands at waiting around in courts for barristers.
Well, this is a bit different. Well, the whole case rests on you. You hadn't volunteered your evidence.
Don't worry.
My apologies to you, Mr. Johnson, and to your client, and of course to the defendant. But I must adjourn your case for a short while I deal with the problem of immediacy.
Your Honor, I appear for Cyril Reginald Butler, the tenant of furnished accommodation at number 357 Acacia Grove, Andersley, who has issued a summons for damages for breach of the covenant of quiet enjoyment.
Where's Miss Peterson?
On her feet at the county court.
But she's due here an hour ago.
She won't be long.
Why are you all dressed up?
If she's late, I'm to hold the fort.
God almighty.
Yes, Miss Peterson. I think this is a case where I can grant your injunction. The court staff will now make a fair copy and arrange for service by the court bailiffs.
We would prefer to effect service ourselves.
As you wish.
Much obliged, Your Honor.
Yes,
Why did you say we'd do the serving?
Speed, bailiffs are busy people.
Well, who'll do the serving or whatever it's called?
Miss Bradstreet, have you got my taxi?
Yes, he's waiting
I'll
outside.
tell him I won't be a moment, will you?
Call that to you.
My lords, I appear with Miss Harriet Peterson.
I can see my learned friend's difficulty. Perhaps I can assist her in her application.
If Miss Bradstreet has an application to make, I'm sure she's quite capable of making it herself. And it is customary for experienced counsel to address this court by the prefix, my lord or my lords.
My lord.
How far have you got?
I haven't started.
Pray catch your breath, Miss Peterson. I'm sure nothing but the most pressing of a citizen's rights prevented you from being here on time.
Indeed so, my lord.
Yeah, whenever you're ready, Miss Peterson.
Get back to the county court, pick up the injunction and serve it on Novus. Yes, you.
Are you ready, Miss Peterson?
Yes, my lord.
Then shall we begin?
Yes, my lord. This is an application for leave to appeal against conviction and sentence on a charge arising out of events which occurred outside a public house in Guildford An offence popularly known as mugging.
Mugging? Americanism.
It is a word used to describe two or more people who lie in wait for a victim and rob him with violence.
Bushwhacking.
Yes, my lord. The victim in this case was a Major Stannard, who'd had an argument in a public house with 4 young men, one of whom was the appellant David Coletti. When the public house closed, the Major was attacked and robbed, and the 4 young men, including the appellant, were convicted of the robbery and sentenced to 3 years apiece.
We've read the transcript of the trial and your grounds of appeal, and as I understand it, you have no complaint about the trial itself.
No, my lord.
Not even the judge's summing up.
No, my lord.
That makes a change.
You confine your appeal solely to matters that transpired after the trial.
Yes, my lord.
That would appear to make your task difficult.
My lords, the victim of the attack, Major Stannard, was the only witness to the robbery.
Usually is.
But there were 8 witnesses in this case.
But they only saw and heard what happened before the robbery, in the bar where the argument took place, or what happened after the robbers had fled. Major Stannard is the only person who knows who attacked him and how. No one else saw the incident. The appellant's conviction rested solely on the evidence of this one man.
You can't say that. It was the evidence as a whole that convicted him.
Yes, my lord. But if the victim's evidence can be impugned, the whole prosecution case is flawed.
Now we come to the nub of the matter. You want us to listen to new evidence that was not given during the trial.
Yes, my lord.
There are strict rules to be complied with before we can hear that evidence. Can you satisfy those rules?
I think so, my lord.
Let's see. First, it must be evidence that was not available at the time of the trial.
That is self-evident, my lord. The appeal is based on remarks made by Major Stannard after the trial.
It must be relevant to the issues. What do you say to that?
Anything that casts doubt on the evidence of the chief prosecution witness must satisfy that condition.
It must be credible evidence. That's a fine point. Really a matter of opinion.
Major Stannard made his remarks to a detective sergeant of police, a person normally regarded as a credible witness.
A great many barristers make their living trying to prove the contrary.
And what about the last rule, that the evidence must be such that if the jury had heard it, they would have had doubts about convicting?
They couldn't have heard it. It didn't happen until afterwards.
That last rule must mean, if the jury had been able to hear it, would they have had doubt?
What do you say, Mr. Lywood?
My lords, very simply, what Miss Peterson discloses in her grounds of appeal, if I may dignify them with such a description, is not evidence at all. It's gossip, chit-chat, casual remark made in the emotional aftermath of a traumatic reconstruction of sordid and violent events.
Evidence is what is said, Mr. Lywood. The circumstances in which it is said merely add or subtract weight from that evidence.
If every off-the-cuff comment by every witness at every trial is to be subjected to the scrutiny of the Court of Appeal, there will be no end to litigation.
I agree with that.
Have you got your evidence here, Miss Peterson?
Yes, my lord.
Then why don't we hear it now that we've come this far?
My Lord, Major Stannard must be given the opportunity.
Must?
I would ask the court's leave to call Major Stannard to rebut the new evidence, and he has not been warned to attend today. You see, my Lord, already we were getting into deep water.
Leave to appeal will be granted. We would have preferred to treat this application as the hearing of the appeal itself, but as the prosecution is not ready, we will try to fit it in on
Friday, 2 o'clock.
Friday next at 2 p.m. Is that suitable to both parties?
Yes, my lord.
As your lordships please.
May bail be continued for the appellant, my lord?
Your client is a man of good character?
Apart from this conviction, yes, my lord.
So be it. We will continue bail until Friday next at 2 o'clock.
Be upstanding.
Thank you, Miss Peterson.
Thank you.
Bill, a word of sympathy between professional colleagues. Although I've no doubt your illustrious head of chambers took your advice before refusing me a place, I'd like you to know I bear no grudge, but I have a job to do.
Yes, Mr. Larwood.
You didn't have to mix it quite so much in there, did you?
Dave.
Yes, why did you?
Each of us has a different conception of his duty.
Isn't that Major Stannard?
I expect so.
You told the court he wasn't here.
I said he hadn't been warned, nor had he.
But you knew.
My dear Harriet, I don't put unprepared witnesses into the box any more than you do. I am sorry about your son, but at least I've given him an extra couple of nights at home.
Do I interrupt?
Frequently.
I've just paid the bill for a magnificent funeral.
Emptied your piggy bank, has it?
Of course, when the head of Clan Gallagher dies and I am the heir apparent, things must be done properly. Would you believe I couldn't find a suitable horse-drawn hearse in the whole county?
Did you try Harrods?
Where shall I put this, Sir John?
Something is afoot. You only drink champagne to calm your nerves.
As newly crowned head of the family, I now have other problems. I wanted to talk to you.
Softening me up for something unpleasant?
Oh, Harriet, you malign me. I drink to you.
Thank you. What do I drink to?
Us.
Us?
Us. Chambers, success in the law, on and on.
Huh. For a moment, I thought...
How's Dr. Moody?
Fit, I think.
The last I heard, he left you standing at the airport when he was supposed to be taking you to Lisbon.
He did wait an hour after departure time for me.
He should have known that only a dire emergency would have kept you away.
Why are you so interested?
Things are changing, new responsibilities. I have a need to put my life in order. May I take it that your association with Dr. Moody is at an end?
You may not. And what the hell's it got to do with you?
You get the best Chinese food in London in the East End, if you know where to go.
Well, you obviously do.
I should expect a tip.
I don't know. Probation officers work nights.
Only till 8, one night a week. It may be a vacation, but it's also a job.
That still doesn't explain what you're doing here.
Can I be honest?
Why not?
I want to tell you what I think.
What's stopping you?
Oh, they teach us to be subtle. If we're too direct, the client goes into his shell, emotionally rejects us. I wouldn't want that to happen with you.
I think I can take it.
I'm sick of always saying the opposite of what I feel. I don't usually like older men.
I'm flattered.
You're the most interesting man I've met in a year. I'd like to have a relationship with you.
What sort of relationship?
Oh, I don't particularly want to go leaping straight into bed. But why make a mystery of it? We both know what's happening between us. Why pretend?
Why, indeed.
I don't want to have to keep telling lies every time I want to see you.
I understand, Eileen. But...
Do many women have sexy backs? Only the even numbers down the street. It's only 8 o'clock. So I'm not superstitious. Come on. Oh, blast.
Now, look here, mate. Get out.
There are things to be said, though.
This is our flat. We're entitled to our privacy.
My flat, my house, my furniture. I let you in again. Now in your tenancy. But I don't take notice of your pieces of paper. You see, I'm a reasonable man. Now I have a piece of paper. It's all put down.
What you on about? What's put down?
What you must do for the new tenancy?
Throw him out.
Come on, have a better listen.
New deposit, £50. Now I have more expenses. I put my mortgage up, I put rent up, £1 a week, all
You
right?
can't touch the rent and you can't touch us.
You can't do this, mate.
You refuse to pay rent?
Yes, the increase,
Then you must
yes.
go!
No!
You must leave this house by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
You can't do it. They'll stop you.
10 o'clock!
I'm not going.
We can't, love. We've got nowhere to go.
Bastard's cut off the electricity.
Oh, come to bed.
He's cut off the electricity.
So he's turned off the lights. Now, what can we do about it this time of night? Come to bed.
No.
Oh, where are you going now?
I'm going to ring the law centre.
But there won't be anybody there now.
Look, this is our home, Cyril. I'm going to fight for it.
Now, where would you like to go? Savoy? Tretu?
I don't think I know that one, John.
Oh, let it ring. If you answer it, you'll break the spell.
What spell? Hello? Ian,
I told you.
where are you?
The law centre.
I didn't know you were in London.
Oh, well, I had a few things to sort out. Harriet, Novus has been up to his tricks again. He's cut off the electricity and he's put up the rent. Because Cyril and Rachel are kicking, he says they must be out by 10 in the morning.
Oh, I'd better come over. Sorry, John, this can't wait.
What did you say?
I've just turned down the Savoy Grill with John. But I'll settle for 14 courses at your Chinese place.
I've eaten.
Oh. Well, you just have to sit and watch me eat.
I'm sorry, Harriet. I have a surgery full of patients who'll expect me to be keen and perceptive at 9 o'clock in the morning. I won't be either if I spend half the night in London and the other half blinding up the motorway.
Ian, are you all right?
Yes, fine. I'll make sure there's someone here when you arrive.
You know you should drop that law centre.
Doesn't seem to be my night.
I said you should drop.
I heard you.
It's bad for the image. You're too...
Old?
Senior. I don't mind your being chairman of the management committee. That's a dignified and acceptable role.
But getting the hands dirty isn't.
The solicitor should be doing this. What you and your pupil are doing is a breach of all professional etiquette.
Rubbish. People are more important than rules, and the Bar Council knows it. And if they don't, they can take a running jump.
That is not a proper attitude.
You should come up and see us sometime, John. Try it.
Try what?
Taking the law to the people. Besides,
Besides what?
I enjoy it.
Oh, well, rid me of this turbulent physician.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. Miss Bradstreet will cope now. New statements, affidavits, and a fresh application in the morning.
Just don't know what to say. Thanks.
You go home and wait there for Miss Bradstreet.
Good night, Miss Rutherford. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Miss.
Good night. Thank you for all your help, Miss Rutherford. But we can't keep calling on you.
Oh, that's all right. I rather enjoy working here.
Personal, is it?
Yes.
You know Cyril and Rachel Butler well?
Oh, they needed someone to help them. I fell for it.
They should be very grateful to you.
Or perhaps I should be grateful to them. The pleasure, in a way, is mine.
Yes, I'm sure it is. But I think we can manage now.
Oh, it's no trouble. I can still keep an eye on them. And I know how busy you are, Miss Peterson.
Miss Rutherford, when I take a case, I decide what outside help we need. So with many thanks for all you've done.
Depart and forget.
I'm sorry?
You'd rather I left the field to you.
The case is a difficult one. If these young people are to be helped, only one person can be in charge. And that person is me.
Does the same apply to Dr. Moody?
Yes, Miss Rutherford, it does.
His case, too, is difficult, Miss Peterson. I'm in love with him.
I'm not surprised. Good night.
You've been busy, Miss Peterson. It's not often that I see such well-prepared work.
As Your Honor knows, the law requires that 2 clear days must elapse from the time of serving the injunction until any further proceeding, unless Your Honor gives leave. The law also requires that the landlord must be given 1 clear day's notice before being brought to court.
Your reminder is timely, but I am familiar with the procedure. I think this is a proper case for the court to give leave. Tomorrow morning at 10:30. Would that be convenient, Miss Peterson?
Yes, Your Honour. So as not to strain the court's resources, I am able to arrange to serve the notice on Mr. Novas.
Thank you, Miss Peterson.
Mr. Novas,
What is?
notice from the county court, requiring you to attend before the judge at 10:30 in the morning, to show cause why you should not be committed to prison for contempt of court, refusing to abide by the terms of the injunction granted by his honour. Hey-ho, here we go again.
Are you the person who wants to swear?
Yes, an affidavit of service in the case of Butler and Novas.
Hold the testament in your right hand.
I swear by Almighty God that this is my name and handwriting, and the contents of this my affidavit are true.
Thank you. I'll file this.
And I think that is long enough. It doesn't seem as if he's going to make any appearance.
Heavy case in the Court of Appeal. Won't you be here then?
No.
Are you doing it all on your own?
Yes.
Are you frightened?
Of course not.
Miss Bradstreet?
Yes, my lord. I mean, Your Honour.
I have given Mr. Novas 1 hour and a half in which to appear. I think that is long enough. I will now order his committal to prison for a period of 6 weeks for contempt of court and disobeying my injunction.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Warrants will be drawn up by the court staff.
I'm afraid I shan't be able to serve them, Your Honour.
I am aware of that, Miss Bradstreet. The service of the warrants and the arrest of Mr. Novas will be executed by the county court bailiffs. Mr. and Mrs. Butler, you have endured a cruel and trying ordeal. The court is always reluctant to deprive a citizen of his liberty, but this is a case where it is plainly justified. You may now rest easy. A taste of prison usually has a salutary effect.
It's all right. You may go home.
Sergeant Wilson, will you tell their lordships exactly what happened at the end of David Corletti's trial?
After the judge had sentenced all 4 prisoners to 3 years, the court rose and we all drifted out.
No notebook, Sergeant.
I beg your pardon, my lord?
You are not consulting your notebook. Does that mean that you can remember it without? Or...
I didn't make a note, my lord. I gave a written statement to Miss Peterson.
Yes, Sergeant.
Major Stannard and I walked out of court together.
Did he say anything to you?
Yes, miss. He said he thought the judge was a bit hard on the Corletti boy.
Anything else?
I asked him why. He said something about a different background. And then he did try and stop the other yobbos a bit.
Yes?
He said he couldn't say so in court, the slightest doubt, and they'd all get off.
What did you do about it?
Nothing, sir.
Why not?
What do you mean?
You're a conscientious officer.
Yes.
And yet the principal prosecution witness in an important trial confesses to perjury and you take no action.
There were no witnesses.
You're a witness.
I mean no independent witnesses.
You're an independent witness.
I assume there'd have to be some sort of corroboration before any action could be taken.
Well, that's not your decision, it's for your superiors. Why didn't you report the incident?
For the reasons I've already given.
I don't think so. I think the reason is the Major never said it.
I'm not lying, sir.
I didn't say you were. You're mistaken. What the Major actually said wasn't it a pity I couldn't say Coletti tried to stop the other yobbos?
He never said that. Why should he? He made it quite clear he wanted them all convicted.
And to answer your question, Sergeant, the Major said that because he knew Coletti was from a different social background to the other boys.
No, sir.
And the reason you took no action was that there was nothing to take action about. It was a mere expression of regret.
It was not.
When did you make your written statement to Miss Peterson?
About 3 weeks later.
Be precise.
3 weeks and 5 days later.
How many cases did you deal with in that time?
I don't know.
Dozens?
Possibly.
How many statements did you take in that time?
I don't know.
How many verbals did you record in your notebook?
I don't know.
The point, put simply, Sergeant, is that it's unlikely that you should remember with any accuracy one statement among so many. Is there any particular reason why you did?
Yes, my lord. It worried me.
What did? The fact that he said it, or that you did nothing about it?
Both, my lord.
Are you in trouble with your superiors now, Sergeant?
I don't know, my lord.
Well, let's hear the Major. Unless either of you two have any more questions.
No, my lord.
No, my lord. Major Stannard, please.
This appears to be a copy of a confidential report on Major Stannard by his commanding officer in 1966.
That's right.
This officer conducted himself unsatisfactorily during an inquiry into an indecent assault. While it is uncertain whether the boys will tell the truth, it is clear that this officer told lies and some unhealthy attitude of the boys. He's not a suitable officer to train young soldier.
What's your opinion, John?
Don't touch it, Harriet.
It's Dave's only hope.
How do you come to be in possession of this?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
Miss Peterson says it's a crime to have that. Official Secrets Act, conspiracy even. I can't land a mate in it for helping me out.
And what good do you think it will do if Miss Peterson does use this?
It'll blow the whistle on the Major.
Ah.
Well, it's obvious. He's queer. Some young lad set him up for it. He wasn't court-martialed, but he got the hevo. He's got it in for all youngsters.
William, you appall me. None of that follows from this ancient piece of history. You want to introduce it as prejudice. They'll never allow it.
I clerked the president of that court for 3 years before he was made a judge. When he gets that expression on his face, it takes a bloody earthquake to shift him.
And you take the same gloomy view of your chances as William? The appeal isn't over yet.
Miss Peterson was good, Sir John. No complaints, but she never budged the Major.
I tried everything. It's pretty clear their lordships think the Major's explanation may be the right one. One of them, Tubby Boston, is on our side, but the other two are against us.
They refused to renew my son's bail.
I said if the appeal was going to be refused, the sooner sentence began, the better.
William, if this comes out and charges are brought, and there will be, I shall have to sack you.
I realize that, Sir John.
No one else in the law will be allowed to employ you. You'll probably go to jail. Now, you'd risk all that for the dubious benefit of hurling abuse and prejudice at Major Stannard.
Wouldn't you, Sir John?
If you had a son?
The man should be in jail. I ordered his committal on Friday.
Mr. Novus wouldn't open the door to your bailiffs, Your Honour.
He wouldn't what?
He wouldn't open the door to be arrested. And as Your Honour knows, a bailiff has no legal right to force an entry.
For 3 days?
Bailiffs don't work at weekends. I understand Your Honour's feelings. I share them. It is not the fault of the bailiffs, but the system.
The police were called. Why didn't they arrest him?
They don't interfere in civil matters.
But I had issued a warrant for this man's arrest.
Unfortunately, the constable had only my client's word for that. And only a county court bailiff can arrest Novus on that warrant.
Yes, but there was violence, you say.
Luckily, no one went to hospital, and it was on private property.
Some action should have been taken on the violence.
It has been, Your Honour. All the participants have issued summonses for assault in the magistrate's court this morning.
I should like to see the senior bailiff. I want that man arrested and brought before me.
You're going to have to use that report.
I can't let you go to jail because of me.
You've got no choice, son. They may have reduced the age of consent to 18, but you're not 18 yet.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough to get 3 years in jail.
You haven't the experience to know what's best.
There's no point in both of us going to jail. I was here on Friday. I could see which way it was going.
I'm going to overrule you, David. I'm not going to let Major Stannard out of that witness box until I've made him tell the truth.
All right.
You have more questions of this witness, Miss Peterson?
Yes, my lord.
Not too many, I hope.
No, my lord. Major Stannard, in August 1966, were you second in command of a unit of boy soldiers?
I know what she's going to say. Are you going to let her assassinate my character?
Is this relevant?
Yes, my lord.
Something that happened 7 years ago?
It's a malicious lie intended to discredit me.
If what Miss Peterson says is a lie, you must say so. If, however, it merely tends to discredit your evidence, you have no right to object.
Once it's been said in open court, the damage is done. You've got to stop it now.
You will not argue with me, Major, and that is an order. Your function here is to answer questions.
Were you second in command of a unit of boy soldiers?
Yes?
Were you dismissed from that post?
No.
Major, you are on oath.
What she's going to tell you is a breach of security.
You'll either obey my orders and answer the questions or take the consequence.
I was not dismissed.
Or would you prefer the word posted?
I moved to another unit.
Because of an adverse report by your commanding officer. I have it here.
I don't think we can have this, Miss Peterson. This is not new evidence. These matters put to the witness to the trial.
No, my lord.
Why not?
We didn't know of them.
But these facts were in existence before the trial. We can't allow such evidence at this stage.
Not evidence, my lord. Merely cross-examination as to credit.
Well, even so, why should we allow it?
Because it discloses a motive for this witness to lie.
I think it's mere prejudice. I will allow you one or two more questions.
You were a witness at an inquiry into an indecent assault.
I didn't assault anyone.
That may be true, Major. But your commanding officer found that you had told lies to the inquiry.
He was not a disciplinarian.
He said you had an unhealthy attitude towards young people and should not be allowed to train them.
I hope you're satisfied. Grubby little reporters will write it all down. Queer Major in the High Court. I'm not queer. They were queer. The commanding officer, he didn't know what was going on. I did. I saw them at it in each other's beds at night. I know what young people are like. Homosexuals, drugs, orgies, they're all the same. There's no respect for authority, no discipline. It's all indulgence and kicks and violence. Well, not with me, it isn't. I knew at the moment he and his friends walked into that pub, I could see what sort they were. I knew what they were going to do. And he is the worst of the lot because he mouths the lies. The others are too ignorant to put it to... Would you repeat the question, please?
No more questions, Major.
You may leave the witness box. Mr. Lywood, this has altered the character of the case.
Not really, my lord. The Major lost his temper, quite understandably.
Do you seek to persuade us that if a jury had heard that outburst, they would still have convicted Mr. Corletti?
It does not alter the fact that the Major was robbed.
If I had been on the jury, I would certainly have let Corletti off.
We're against you, Mr. Lywood.
So I see.
The appeal will be allowed, the conviction will be quashed.
3 boys were convicted with Corletti, Mr. Lywood. What do you suggest we do with them?
You can't let off one without letting off the rest, my lord.
We direct that the other 3 accused be told that if they apply for leave to appeal out of time, it will be granted.
Yes,
my lord. You appear to have prevented miscarriage of justice, Miss Peterson. Your persistence is to be commended.
That's all very well. But Major Stannard mentioned a breach of security. Is that report protected by the Official Secrets Act?
It must be, my lord.
We feel we must direct that the circumstances in which this confidential report came into your client's possession be investigated.
Alan Trevor Brown.
I'm sorry, Bill.
I'm not bothered.
You should be.
I won't say congratulations, Harriet.
Well, why not? Miss Peterson was fantastic.
She made a man destroy himself.
It's a terrible thing to do to another human being.
But he deserved it.
I hope you don't ever get all you deserve, young man.
Goodbye, Miss Peterson. That was quite a show.
Goodbye, Sergeant. And thank you. I hope there won't be any repercussions.
Goodbye.
Thanks for everything.
Well, if you excuse me, I have a county court waiting for me.
You police can never do anything right. I told you, one doubt and they all get off.
We're dropping the case. I've taken too much.
But he'll be in prison.
It's too late.
He'll go straight from here to Brixton.
I've got to think of the baby.
It's no good, Miss Peterson. We've had enough. He's won. We just want our things back. Rachel's going to go back to her mum and I'll go back to... We'll be out looking for a place.
Now, you're positive.
Yeah.
Then I'd better tell the judge.
Have given up the tenancy of the flat. What is the point of putting him in jail? Revenge?
Yes, that's what they want.
Be quiet.
Your Honor, he's been breaking the law and your injunction alone repeatedly for a week.
Yes, I know that. But if I'm to commit a man to prison, there must be some point. Now that your clients have left the flat, the whole reason for the injunction has gone.
But I want to tell you what these two did to
I won't tell
me.
you again. Now be silent.
Your Honor, it's entirely a matter for the court.
Last night he attacked me. I defend myself.
If you interrupt these proceedings once more, I shall commit you for contempt. You were saying, Miss Peterson?
I cannot assist the court any further, if that is your Honor's decision.
Admittedly, the Court of Appeal has said that the power to imprison still exists, even if the tenants have left. But I
Now listen to me for a change. I got my right in my pocket.
I warned you, Mr. Novas. You will go to prison for 21 days for contempt in the face of this court. Take him away.
You can't put me in prison. Let go of my arms. I made no crime. You can't put me in prison. I'm going to ask. I'm going to be a lawyer. You can't put me in prison.
There must be respect for the law and its courts. Now, what did you wish to say, Miss Peterson?
I think you've said it all, Your Honor.
When Mr. Novas has purged his contempt, I shall require an undertaking from him that he will in future conduct his affairs in accordance with the laws of the land.
All stand.
So that's it?
No.
I'm not going back to that house.
No one will make you.
But it's all over. We're out.
You know something about the law. Tell them.
Last Monday, Miss Peterson told you that your action was for breach of the covenant for quiet enjoyment, injunction and damages. The injunction's gone now, but we haven't yet dealt with the damages.
When Novas comes out of jail, he'll be ordered to pay you compensation of £300, maybe £400. It's not a fortune, I know, but...
But with the bit we've got in the post office, it might be just enough to put a deposit on the house.
I think so, right?
But the council said they'd give us a mortgage if we got enough deposit.
Very small house, though.
It's bigger than that bloody flat. And it'll be ours.
Not even a thank you.
The important thing is that the patient is feeling better.
And to hell with the doctor.